Okay. It's a continuation of our mathematical concepts, groups, rings and fields. What do you mean by a group? The set of elements must satisfy four properties, and those four properties are closure, associative, finding out the identity element and the inverse. When those four properties are satisfied by the elements of a group, we say that it is a group. Okay? If the set, any two elements of the set is able to satisfy commutative law or commutative property, which is nothing but a operator, whatever it may be, the binary operator, a dot b is equal to b dot a. If the result belongs to the set, we say it is a abelian group. Okay? So the first four properties to know that it is a set is a group. When it satisfies the fifth property, we say that the group is a abelian group. Okay? To be a cyclic group, the generator must be available in the group. That is the generator as well as the elements generated by that particular generator. All those elements are present in the group. Now we say it is a cyclic group. Right? So then we discussed about the ring. Okay? So in group we will have only one binary operator. Only one binary operator. The operator could be of anything. It may be plus, multiplication, minus, division. It could be of anything. Any binary operator. You know the meaning of binary operator. If an operator is able to operate two operands, we say it is a binary operator. Okay. So when a set is able to satisfy on a particular binary operator, the first four properties group, and then the fifth property to say it is an abelian group. Now in ring we will consider two binary operators, R, multiplication. The ring is represented like this, denoted by R, plus, multiplication. Okay, so the same set to be a ring, first it must satisfy A1 to A5. A1 to A5. The ring must be a abelian group or plus. So with the first operator we are checking the first five properties, that is A1 to A5, and then we are checking M1 to M6, M1 to M6. So in this two different properties we will check. One is the distributive law. Which is not present for the group. Okay. So the remaining all will be same. So that is the in A1 to A5 we are checking with the plus. Okay. So the inverse of any number, it will be of negative. Correct? Negative. Whereas in the multiplication, with respect to multiplication, if you are checking the inverse, it will be a fractional number. If you are taking A as 2, okay? If you multiply 2 with 1 by 2, only you get the identity element as 1. Whereas identity element of plus is 0. Please remember all those things. Identity element of multiplication is 1. Okay, so inverse is nothing but when you are operating A, if it is plus, obviously minus A, you get the identity element 0. Okay, so when you are using multiplication, A into 1 by 8, only then you get 1, because identity element for plus is 0, identity element for multiplication is 1. Okay, clear? So we are having one more extra property here, it is distributive law, because we are using two operators here. We are using two operators. So in associative also we have like this, A dot B dot C is equal to A dot B dot C. It is associative because on same operator. But here since in ring we are using two different operators, we will be checking like this, A plus B into C is equal to A plus B into A plus C. That is distributive law. Similarly, if you are changing the operator, A into B plus C. If this is the case, A into B plus A into C. M1 to M6. If any set is able to obey the axioms from A1 to A5, M1 to M6, we say that set as a ring. Okay, on to binary operators. Fine. And if a set is able to obey all those things, we say it is an integral domain. Integral domain. So now we are going to see the field. Field is also similar to our ring only with a slight variation. The field is denoted by F plus multiplication, which means this also is operated on two different operators. One is plus and the other one is multiplication. Addition and multiplication are the two operators which operates on field. For all A, B, C, E, F, the following axioms are obeyed. Any two elements, any three elements to be picked up from the set, it has to obey the axioms A1 to M6, which means A1 to A5 as well as M1 to M6. We know when any set is satisfies A1 to A5 and M1 to M6, we say it is an integral domain. So first condition, what you are supposed to check, your set should be a integral domain. The F must be a integral domain. And then in addition to that, they said to be a field, we are going to check one more property, M7, that is multiplication inverse. Multiplication inverse. For each A in F, distributive law also we will be checking. Okay. So including that only we had M6. Okay. So I mean M1 to M6. For each A in F except 0, only 0 is excluded. There is an element A inverse in F such that A into A inverse is equal to A inverse normal multiplication inverse only, but that must be present in F. So we do check the inverse for the addition. That comes in A1 to A5 itself. But here in ring we don't check the inverse. We will not check the inverse, but we check even the commutative. Whereas in field we will be checking the multiplicative inverse. That is the only difference. So a group itself can be a field where it is able to be operated on plus as well as multiplication, and it is able to obey the axioms A1 to M6 plus M7. Clear? So this is what is a field. Sometimes as a short question or 2 marks question, this may be asked. Okay? So this may not be asked as a 13-mark question and all, because it is a supporting concepts for your cryptography. Understand? But 2 marks question or maybe as a problem, this may be given. So the next topic, actually if you see at page number 100, you can see consolidation of all. Okay? It is listed of all the properties from A1 to A5, M1 to M7. Okay? So A1 property, you must remember what is A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, M1, M2, M3, M4, M5, space, M6 and M7. So when these 4 properties alone satisfied, we say it is a group. Okay? So when up to 5 is satisfied, it is abelian group. Like that consolidation is given. Okay? And then in addition to this, if M1 to M6 satisfied, it is called a ring. And then M7 is also satisfied, it is called a field. Like one consolidation is given, please go to the group, abelian ring, and then commutative ring. See, to be a ring, only up to M3 needs to be satisfied. To be a commutative ring, commutative property has to be satisfied. And then to be a integral domain, M1 to M6 along with A1 to A5. And to be a field, M7 also must be included. Okay? So once if you read that right side properties, left side the name of that set. So you can remember always. Right? So we move on to the next topic, which is Euclidean algorithm. This also you may be familiar. I don't want to leave this topic there are various ways to find out GCD, and we will be using always Euclidean algorithm. Okay, because that is easy to code it. That is the reason we follow Euclidean algorithm. So GCD definition of it only to give. So GCD algorithm is defined as for any non-integer, for any non-negative integer A, for any non-negative integer A, and any positive integer B, any non-negative integer A, and positive integer B, we apply this algorithm as GCD of A comma B is equal to GCD of B comma A mod, correct? A mod B. GCD of A comma B is equal to GCD of B comma A mod B. We'll take one example. GCD of 55 comma 22. Okay. So how do we apply this? GCD of B, which is nothing but 22. A mod B. 55 mod 22, which is nothing but GCD of 22, 11. 55 mod 22 is 11. So this would be again next equation, GCD of 22 comma 11 is equal to GCD of B 11 22 mod 11. Correct? Which is nothing but GCD of 11 comma 0. GCD of 11 comma 0. When the second parameter of this function, when A mod B is equal to 0, when A mod B is equal to 0, GCD of A comma B will become only A. Okay? So when you apply this over here, the answer will be GCD of 55 comma 22 is equal to 11. The answer right? By checking some other way also. I repeat again. So these steps have to be repeated as long as there is some positive value on B. The moment it becomes 0, if it is 0, the A value will be announced as GCD. I'll give an example. I have solved one. I want you to do GCD of 18 comma 12. You may be knowing the answer, but apply Euclid's algorithm on it. GCD of 18 comma 12. Those are completed. You can do the next sum. GCD of 11 comma 10. So GCD of 10 comma 1 is equal to GCD of 1 comma 10 mod 1. 10 mod 1. 10 mod 1 is 0. So GCD of this value is becoming 0. The answer is 1. Okay, after that. So in the first unit, the topics whatever we discussed about substitution techniques or transposition techniques are the base for the real ciphers. Okay. So we are going to discuss about symmetric cipher in this unit. Symmetric cipher means it will be using only one key for the encryption as well as the decryption, which we call it as a secret key. Why it is called a secret key? The key has to be maintained confidentially, only then the information can be transmitted. You can maintain confidentiality. So the key is called secret key. Who will be creating this key? There are so many ways to create this key, or who will be creating this key. One possibility is that sender may create a key and he may give the key to the recipient. Okay, so I am the one who is going to send you a message. Now I will send my message along with the key, or my key will come at time t1. You will receive the key first, and then like we are receiving OTP, we are doing some transaction, okay, for which the OTP is generated. We are putting that OTP, only then the transaction is being taken place. The transaction what you are doing is confidential one. Okay, so the PIN number what you are putting or the transaction what you are doing should not be visible to anybody else. Nobody else should know the transaction. The transaction should be taken place only between you and the recipient. But of course, there will be a in between the networking activities and all are there. But still, over the network, people should not get the key. So bank is not included here. Bank is not a hacker. Okay, they are the authenticated, authorized people only. Whenever you have some grievances, you only go to the bank and ask. Suppose you swipe your ATM card. Okay, so first time when you are swiping, it was saying that card declined or the transaction is not being taken place. Once again you do swipe your card. That time only it got reflected on the transaction according to you. Okay, so but later when you check 2 times the money is being debited, where do you go? You will go to your bank only, because they are the common people who will be responsible for the people who are in the communication transaction. That is about the transaction. Whereas there will be some transmission where the third party is not at all required. Okay, there will be only sender and recipient. In that case, key will be generated by the sender and he will be giving the key to the recipient by some other way. Maybe a hint or maybe through some other way of transmission. He may pass the key to the recipient. That is one way. Another way is that recipient may generate a key and he may give it to the sender. Use this key for the encryption. So the sender will be encrypting the text using the recipient's key and send the message to the recipient. So that both will be somehow the key must be available with both the parties, because common key is going to be used by both of them. Suppose I don't trust the recipient itself. It is that kind of communication. It doesn't mean that always both the parties who are in the communication will be having a mutual understanding. Nothing like that. Okay. So you are paying fee to some university or some other, you are doing some online shopping where you need to send the money, and at that case you may not be knowing who is that recipient at all. Correct? So in that case there should be some common person who must be neutral to the sender as well as the recipient, so that if any grievances, any transaction problem occurs, he will come into picture and he will resolve the problem. Clear? So here a third party comes to the picture who will be creating the key and will be distributing to both the parties. These are all the various ways. Again, problems are also there with all the 3 cases. So then there are some other ways to distribute, generate and distribute the keys, which we will study in key management or key distribution. What I want you to understand at this level, one key will be used by both the parties, that is encryption as well call it as secret key, and the encryption which follows using secret key or a single key, we say it is a symmetric cipher or symmetric encryption or conventional encryption. Any name, right? Fine. So how are we going to send the data? Okay. So the data may be a very small text may be considered as a data, or it may be a block of data, irrespective of. Okay. So when we are transmitting a message, it may not be always one word or two words. That depends. Okay, sometimes it may be of yes or no pattern of answer we may be giving. Sometimes it may be a document. When it is a document, obviously it will be a very large text only. So how do we encrypt? Whether I will be able to encrypt the entire message at a time? It is not possible. And at that time, we divide the text into various types. One could be a block, other could be a string. Depending upon whether I am going to encrypt the message, consider the message for the encryption as a block or string, we do classify the cipher into block cipher and string cipher. When I am encrypting a block of text at a time, it is called block cipher. When I encrypt a string, that is, it may be only one byte at a time or one bit at a time, but maximum is one byte at a time is getting encrypted. We say it is string cipher. Clear? So the cipher, depending upon the amount of the size of the text what is getting encrypted, it is classified as block cipher and string cipher. If you are getting a question, how do you classify encryption algorithm with respect to key? How do you classify? Sorry? With respect to key, how do you classify encryption algorithms or ciphers? Symmetric cipher and asymmetric cipher. In symmetric cipher, we use only one key, sender as well as the recipient. Whereas in asymmetric cipher, we use a pair of keys. One key for the encryption, other key for the decryption. It is like a complement, a pair of keys. One private key and one public key will be generated. Okay, always for the encryption public key is used and the decryption private key is used. I have explained you very clearly when A and B are two people who are going to transmit the message. Okay, so A will be having two keys. I can say it is private key PR of A and public key PU of A. Similarly, B also will be having PR of B and PU of B. Got it? A pair of keys will be available with both the parties. Now, this public key will be kept publicly, like in some notice board or some common pool or mail, or somehow this PU of A as well as PU of B will be available publicly. Anybody can refer them. Okay. So now A wants to send a message to B. So A will be picking up the public key of B and encrypting the message, and the message will be in the form of ciphertext which will reach to B. Now B will be using his own private key for the decryption, because private key of B will be kept only within B itself. Only public key is displayed publicly. Similarly, private key of A is kept within A itself. Public key of A only is kept publicly. Only public keys are available for anybody's access, whereas private key will be available only within the party who is generating the key. Clear this? Okay. So A will be using B's public key and encrypt the message. B will be using his own private key for the decryption. So there are two keys used for encryption. One key for encryption, other key for decryption. That is called asymmetric cryptography. Since one key is private, that is secret over here, other key is public, which is the additional key here. That is the reason we can call this cipher as public cipher or public cryptography. cipher is otherwise called as public key cryptography or public cipher. Okay, because public key is an additional over here. Irrespective of it is a symmetric cipher or asymmetric cipher, we are going to classify in other words. Okay, with respect to the size of the message getting encrypted. Okay, how much message is going to be encrypted, depending upon that I can classify the cipher into block cipher and stream cipher. Various sizes are there. So I can take 64-bit at a time for the encryption, 128-bit at a time for the encryption, 256-bit at a time for the encryption, 196-bit at a time for the encryption. So depending upon the size what we are taking, the cipher also varies. Whereas here it will be of maximum 1 byte. Simple. Block cipher. Now we are going to see the principle of block cipher. What principle it follows? So I am going to discuss about only the block cipher principle. Okay, as we studied in unit 1, substitution and transposition are the one who will be the building blocks of any cipher. So this block cipher will be comprised of substitution and permutation. That's right. In the last class also I asked you a question. What is the other name of transposition? Transposition is also called as permutation. Okay. So substitution and permutation will be used as a building blocks for any cipher. Okay. And we do follow a principle called Feastel cipher principle. Cipher principle. So this is the base for our NATS, SDS, WDS,